Previously on The Great White North. I set off from Seattle, Washington, heading north, through the coast and Rocky Mountains on my way to Dawson Creek, British Columbia, where I entered the world-famous Alaska Highway, visiting the mountains and lakes of Kenai National Park and throughout British Columbia in the Yukon, before crossing the border to Alaska and arriving in Delta Junction, where I traded paved roads for gravel as I explored Denali Highway and Denali National Park. I made it through a dozen grizzly sightings and back to pavement, where, in this episode, I turned south on my final push back to Seattle, Washington. August is a pretty rainy month in Alaska, and having already spent a few sunny days in Denali, I had no choice but to ride in the rain. After having spent so much time on the side roads, traffic was a bit of a change I had to get used to. But there were still sights to be seen along the way, such as Hurricane Gulch.
I rode most of the day yesterday in the rain. It rained last evening, all night, and it's still raining this morning, so I guess I'm getting the true Alaskan experience bike touring up here. That's gotta be a typo.
It wasn't.
We meet again, Sasitna.
Every town along the way had a bike path.
Mostly suburban sprawl, but at least there's still mountains.
One notable exception being the Glen Highway, the freeway into Anchorage. But eventually it too had a bike path. And alongside it I saw the urban black bear. And after exploring Anchorage on the bike trail network, I was heading south again for Seward. spent some time in Kenai Fjords National Park, where I traded in my cleats for hiking boots and squeezed out one last day in the mountains. A few hundred years ago, this area was completely covered in ice. I was running out of time though, so I took off again. And to my surprise, the sun came out for a little while, and I had my first flat tire of the trip.
Life goes on.
For better days to come and carry us like wind in our sails.
August is the best month for salmon viewing, and the Portage Glacier Valley has several great opportunities.
This vision that I saw is getting closer every dawn. We are dreamers of the shore. Now on this boat, and we all know where we belong. Just wait. Wait for our home to show on the horizon. Soon we'll be there. Hold on tight. I can smell the shore. It's right in front of us. If we just hold on tight. This vision that I saw is getting closer every dawn. We are dreamers of the shore when we can't read the sky.
After riding under Beejic Peak, I found myself faced with the much longer Whittier Tunnel. 2.5 miles long and only 1 car lane wide. Traffic has to alternate to share the tunnel not only amongst themselves, but with the Alaska Railroad, who also uses it in both directions. And because of all this, bicycles are not allowed, so I did what I had to do. And after about 10 minutes in the rain with my thumb out, some local fishermen loaded my bike in the back of their truck and whisked me to the other side. They offered to drop me off in town, but after so long on a bike, I was not about to be driven across the finish line. So I pedaled to the terminal and leaned my bike against the building, completing my final Alaskan mile. The arrival of the ferry meant my departure, and warm, dry camping. The first stop on the ferry was the next evening in Yakutat, Alaska.
We're stuck here until this boat moves.
Where I was able to watch the sunset for the first time in months. The next morning, the sun rose over the Fairweather mountain range in Glacier Bay National Park. We returned into Cross Sound and Icy Strait on our way to the Inside Passage. 5 nights later, I was dropped off in Bellingham, 100 miles north of where I originally started in Seattle, Washington. Which gave me one final night on the road. The wildlife wasn't quite as intimidating. This is the strangest moose I've ever seen. I really had seen a lot on my journey. Marine life and waterfowl. Birds of prey, both small and large. And even a few porcupine. Moose and bison, caribou of different ages, black bear and grizzlies.
Our general store should come with a dog.
Dogs, campers, and cyclists.
How you doing?
Views that are second to none. And even though I had just gotten off one ferry, I found myself boarding another one. This time to Seattle, Washington, my final destination. My name is Mike, and this is why I ride a bicycle.